too wild. They've become their own entity, like a black cloud of static you can't control, moving about of its own accord, causing this youthful chaos in a world you've tried so hard to smother. Because the problem with kids these days is that they run with whatever freedom you give them. It's best to keep the rope tight, lest they gain some sort of entitlement in this world. Because in a world full of dreams we're not good enough to pursue, in the middle of the rat race you start your children on when they turn 5, fighting for the prize of a useful education and a viable income, on this planet where self-hate has gone viral and your hairless children go out in search of razor blades before they're even old enough to shave, we wouldn't want kids these days to think they deserve anything from you. And no one asked your permission before shaving their heads and inking their skin, did they? Putting holes in our bodies and coloring ourselves in ugly self-expression, fueled by pressure from the society you say has warped our minds. It's the society's fault your kids have been changed, rebelled, and rioted against your leadership. That cloud of static makes more noise and causes more annoyance every day. And they've been persuaded by this society, our society, to act this way. These children who should be seen and not heard, we've made noise. We're yelling and crying in your streets. We're being shot at for a chance at education. We're refusing to live with your abuse. And if causing a riot is the only way we know how to make you listen, then by God, we're going to do it. But it's society's fault. You've told us stories of how it's supposed to be. Told us of the beaten down spirits and quiet afternoons of your childhood, of ignorance and the blissful silence of a community too happy in its callousness to ruin the model household ideals. You grew up in communities where Mr. Silverman died from pneumonia, not the AIDS virus that had been attacking his immune system for half a decade. And Mr. Johnson has a bit of a temper, while Mrs. Johnson broke her arm, nose, and collarbone by falling down the stairs 3 times. So, maybe kids these days are obsessed with social media. Or maybe we've decided it's a lot harder to pretend poverty doesn't exist when it shows up in your Twitter feed. And maybe kids these days complain too much, preach on their undeserved human rights too much. Or maybe we've decided brutality and fear isn't the basis of a healthy relationship. And maybe kids these days are vain. Or maybe that selfie was the only picture we actually felt beautiful in. Maybe that picture means a lot more than vanity and conceit. Maybe it's self-acceptance and a broken generation learning to love imperfection for the first time in our lives. Maybe that picture is the first without hate wrapped around its edges. This generation of kids these days isn't trying to break down your family values. We're not trying to turn you gray, and we're not just going through a phase. No, it's worse than that. We're trying to start a revolution, to make this world full of people who notice when fellow human beings are suffering and try to do something about it. We're trying to move towards a future where your quiet indifference is left in the past, and we're trying to bring you with us.